She's so experienced. Even knows
Dio, you have a lot of experience with the pecoree, man.
Well, you gotta know how to eat the pecorees. You understand?
I get two things from what Pastor Dio is saying.
Yes.
Number one is, you know, what Pastor Tini was saying yesterday was the fact that when you get married, don't lose your precious friendships because of marriage, because there will be a time you need them and they are no longer there. But Pastor Dio is also saying that this lockdown even helps you to even redefine who yourself, to even find out who you are before you know, okay, who are the friends that are supposed to be in my space? Who is supposed to follow me in this journey? Especially for a lot of people who are close to 50, over 50, like all my big sisters. Pastor BINTA is not in that, all these are bones. So the more you need to redefine who are you, where am I going to, and then you now know who can follow you on that journey, if I understand that well.
Yeah, Pastor B, I'd like to say it's not just about redefining right now. Don't redefine yourself now, just reset. You already find where you are. A lot of people right now are getting into self-development courses, trying to get masters and mastering anything. And I say, you know what, the first masters you need is of yourself right now. Just reset. Right now, just allow the audit of the spirit to weed out, to take out what needs to be taken out. And just from where you are, the critical mass of what you find as the remnant, reroute for your flourishing going forward post-COVID. Please don't take on too much right now that begins to confuse how you want to move from this timeline. Because the truth of the matter is, where you are, there's so much in us already. And this time of not just the lockdown, but all of the scenarios that are presenting themselves, it's just time to audit and reset. And in that place of resetting, you will find your foundation is strong. Through the crisis, through everything, you will find amazing things about yourself that you will absolutely totally love and use to go forward. So you don't end up looking at it that, oh, I haven't learned this. A lot of people, and I'm not saying it's bad or it's great, but I'm just saying, please make sure that in all this time of self-development, you truly connect with yourself.
Right. Thank you so much, Auntie D. That's really deep. One of the things you said, I'm taking away, and I wonder if other ladies here feel the same way. Don't be too under pressure. Like you said, sometimes you go on your WhatsApp status and you see all this counsel to use the downtime to add to yourself what you don't have. And then you're like, I have not even finished cleaning one child's face in this house. What time do I have to do these things? So, of course, do all the things you can do, develop yourselves. But like she said, detox first of all. Do that audit, and then you can move on from there. Because why add to what you've not audited? Audit yourself and then say, this is what I can take on, and this is what I will do, and this is what I will pursue. Instead of just say, hey, my friend has started doing a video on dash. I have to do a video, and it's not even a call. You're not even going to be judged on that one. Praise God. Anyway, we're getting a few more questions. Before we continue, please, ladies, send in your questions. We are also live. I want you all to know that we are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook as well. So please let friends you have who'd like to join in this also know this. There's a question we have here. It's a career question, and I believe every one of our guests will have something to say about it. Now, Pastor BINTA, you have over 29 years of experience working in a corporate space. Pastor Irene, you have over 25 years working in a corporate space. I'm just asking, at least in your time, in your 29 years plus, Pastor BINTA, did you think of entrepreneurship, or it was just career all round? Pastor Irene, the question goes to you first, but let's hear from Pastor BINTA. Then we hear from Pastor Irene, and I'm sure Pastor Dio will also have something to say about entrepreneurship. Is this something you can take on while pursuing a career? Is it something to think about? Or if you want a career woman, always a career woman, and that's it. Pastor BINTA, please.
Yes, in the course of those many years, I thought about pivoting, if you like, to consider a career, like you said, or to a change in career and to move to becoming an entrepreneur. However, I guess my skill set was a major determinant for me. And so I thought of it, but then I had to do a self audit. I had to reassess my skills and say, am I the type who would succeed as an entrepreneur? Am I able to chase after the deals? Am I able to hound people to make payments? I reviewed my temperament. I reviewed my skills. I reviewed, what the opportunities were for me at that time and what if it was a best fit. And I guess all through those years, I never found the right opportunity that either suited my temperament or my abilities or my competencies. Because if I had found it then, I probably would have moved. I'm not afraid to take chances. I'm not afraid to step out. Once I have the leading of God to say, go in this I might, then I'm usually, happy to make that move. But it just never happened. The right fit, the right, business opportunity and the right time. So different things happened in my life at different times. At some point, it was childbearing. Another time, it was, focused on developing myself and, just racking up all the certificates that I could. So all of this was at different times. And I guess the time for a business to launch out and start a business never really happened. So short answer to your question, can you consider and leave? Absolutely, yes. If the right opportunity, the preceding word of God, you have clear leading from God to say, yes, step out now, because you must step out only if God has said so. Don't leave a job because, everyone is going on about how great it is to be an entrepreneur. You want to be your own boss. You don't want to have to, work weekends sometimes because there's MPR and you just must show up. And you just don't even like the face of this boss that you've got. And you think, you know what, I'll fire my boss and go be my own boss. No. You must go only when there's that opportunity. You must go only when God has said so. And you're ready, mind, emotions, the financing that you need. If your business doesn't work out in 6 months or to a year, are you able to stay, above water and be sure you can maintain that lifestyle that you were used to before you quit your job? So there wasn't, the stars didn't align, as they would say, for me in the course of my career. And I guess that's why I never did leave at that time. Once a career woman, always a career woman, not necessarily. And maybe down the line, I would become an entrepreneur. I would still want to start a business. And we always encourage people to have a plan B or C or D and not just focus on this job that you do for 30 years. And then you come out and they give you a gold plaque, and then what next? So if you have the abilities, you have the right opportunity, you have, most importantly, the leading of God to step out, yes, you can go and, start up a business. But for some, they're just, this is the way I'm wired. I just like the process of waking up in the morning, going to this office, having my KRE, my key result areas and my duties outlined for me. I just want to go. Some people just like to do things by the rut. They're just used to, they're routine people. And so they just like the career bit. It suits them just fine. So if you're that type, then obviously you should remain in that career, but do what you can to upskill and to move up the ladder, to take advantage of the opportunities, to continue to develop yourself and to get better as you go along. But if there's that tendency and that opportunity and that leading to move into entrepreneurship, by all means, step out in faith and all the best.
Right. Thank you so much, Pastor Binta. One of the things you kept saying and I kept hearing is, you kept saying, if the Lord says so, if you're led and by the Lord and all of that. I think that's so important. Sometimes we let common sense override what the Lord is saying, what the thus saith the Lord is. So I think, and I agree with you on that note, that yes, you may be a career person, but even in the choice to make and going on to entrepreneurship, it's also important to ask the Lord so that at least you hit bullseye instead of going around in circles. Yeah. Pastor Irene, do you have something to add to that? Have you considered entrepreneurship while on your career path?
Yes, I think that the only thing, if you're a breathing, living person, is to constantly be scanning your environment for what's new, what's, because that's the way we're wired. What's new that I could be doing? What's that?
Yes, streams of income.
You know about the proverbial grass being green on the other side of the pasture. It's really important to listen to the voice of God and His leading, because grass isn't always greener. And sometimes to get ourselves for trying too many things. This monkey see, monkey do attitude. People are doing it, therefore it must make sense. You've got to be listening to your intuition, which is, of course, the voice of God. That's what the world calls it, intuition, to say, is this the right fit for me? I think that for me, it's always been important to be fully present wherever it is that I am. And I think in building a career, it was important to be present, because chasing too many things means that you might succeed at nothing, and you might just get by, but you will not excel. And excelling is really important.
Yeah.
Done in considering entrepreneurship is that you do not have to be the one to leave your job to start a business. Entrepreneurship also is investing in somebody else starting a business, and you have weighed and you have prayed to God about. It can be you putting seed money into it, and therefore your money is working for you while you're working a career. So my take on getting into entrepreneurship, from my focus, say some other person who passionate, and I believe if it was me, that's what I'll be doing if I wasn't doing this. And you can trust that person and you pray, you can support a business. Not everyone can have one of their own. Otherwise, there'll be chaos. I think there's order in the world for a reason. So that's another way of being an entrepreneur. You don't have to own it outright, and there can be people who are in the front. But so it's really important, I think, in making the choice, whether it's a career that you're climbing, because Pastor BINTA talked about the ladder. You got to be sure that the ladder you're climbing is the right ladder, because you've got to. I think it's important to do something that makes you happy and makes money while you're doing it. So, and it is possible, you pray to God, because that's what your talent is. You find your feet, and and then you put everything that you can, and God helps you, and then you succeed. And meanwhile, that money that you make from there can be making money on the side. But ultimately, we will all resign from careers. That's the truth. You cannot retire at 90. So the plan B, I think that the only thing to add is, let's not make a mistake not to start anything until the day we retire. Because I think it's the wrong time to start. Just by looking at other people who've gone before. That's why I say the other way to be an entrepreneur is to invest in something that is ongoing. Therefore, you can fail while you have a career, because then there's a buffer of your monthly pay. You can fail and learn from those mistakes, and then it will be perfect. By the time you're retiring from your career, there's something that is up and running, whether it's that or you're investing in to fall back on. And then you can go out and try your hands at entrepreneurship, but there's something else that is your buffer. So that's my take. Yeah, I keep going to work, but I'm one of those people that I don't think I will be there until all my hair is gray. So of course, out for what's the next thing.
Yeah. So I'm all for multiple streams of income, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what Pastor BINTA is saying. There's also the need for focus. There's also the need for finding other ways to be entrepreneurial without necessarily leaving a career path that you're also passionate about. Pastor Dali, I'm going to throw this question to you. Yes, ma'am.
Really, I wanted you to add to that what Pastor Fanny was also saying this morning. Women have this thing of just being tossed to and fro. You know, like, I don't know if you remember what Pastor Fanny was saying when she was talking about getting light to know what exactly God would have.
Exactly.
So you're following instruction and not just following the move. You know, she was saying today, they say it's Bitcoin, you buy Bitcoin, tomorrow then you buy this and you're losing a lot and you're just here and there. You know, as opposed to actually taking the pain to sit down and say, God, who am I? What do you want me to do? What's the next? So basically following instruction. And, you know, if you haven't listened to that message, I think it would help you to put everything we're talking about in proper perspective. No, yes, this is what I want to desire, multiple streams of income. I want to plan for retirement. But the light to know what God is saying to you as an individual, to me as Abimbola and not ROLI, you know, it might work for ROLI, but what is God saying to Abimbola per season of my life, you know, because that light makes all the difference. So I think if you haven't listened to that, even if you've listened to that message this morning, go over and just meditate on it so that we can put everything all together in order to make good decisions.
So definitely, Pastor Bimbo, we can't do everything because everybody else is doing it. It may succeed in that person's hand, but it's none of your business even going into that part. So seek light, seek light. That was something we took away from this morning's service. Pastor Daya, I'm going to ask a question that has come in. Someone is asking, how do we manage the upcoming post-COVID-19 crisis because of massive job loss resulting to financial crisis, depression, which puts pressure on the family, particularly on women? Pastor Daya, did you hear the question, ma'am?
Yes, I did. I'm just looking at the three-pronged answer. First and foremost, how do you handle it? Put a handle to it. Like I said, I believe this is a time when we have been forced into pacing ourselves, more so as women of faith. It's a time really of not just being quietened, but being quiet on the inside and not being afraid of what is happening on the outside. The scripture has given us a clear assurance that in the time of indignation, as we hide ourselves, he will preserve us and he will preserve our households. And in the place of our faith, we must at this point engage the altar of prayer and not worry. And however close it comes to you, when you turn to the altar, you will receive an answer, an intervention, and a deliverance. Many women on our prayer platform are receiving testimonies of loved ones who are recovering from COVID. So I'm not saying we are exempt from what is happening, but the truth is, where the women have turned to each other in the place of prayer and to their altars, we are getting answers, and answers of peace. Amen. Answers of deliverance. But at this time, it's important, therefore, to recognize that we are in such a time, it is timed as this. And one thing I heard myself telling myself was, by the time this season passes, may I have passed the exam of the season. There is an exam that we are all, in a manner of speaking, writing. It's a self-examination. I call it the reset. I don't just say this thing casually. I say it from a place of personal realization that without any question, the hashtag new normal that now is being bandied everywhere, and we're all now almost becoming too familiar in our use of it. It's a serious new normal. It's going to take a serious consideration of the profile of who we are now, who we were before COVID, and who we must become. My old English expression, Jesus must pass through Samaria so that he could meet Samaria. This is a Samaria, must pass through this way to come to the meeting point for the rest. See, This is a meeting point for the rest of our lives. Of humanity, we are the generation that has taken the impact of this pandemic. After this, it's someone else's history lesson. For you and I, it's our personal experience in this timeline. We are the generation. We are the critical mass of humanity that are receiving this impact in the now. So therefore, let's get very serious about this. You must take it seriously and take yourself seriously. Deal with depression, don't let it deal with you. There is no way in this season that feelings of despondency, burnout of hope, helplessness, a state of helplessness, feeling hopeless. You're being forced to review how you made money or did not make money, saved money or didn't save money, where you were working, were you truly serving your place of service and assignment? Because now that they're going to be relieving people of their jobs, the reality is, what kind of employee were you? Because it's no longer are you, it's were you. And the reality of that is you may not be retained based on certain reasons, for which you have to be real and you have to admit that I wasn't exactly the most valuable employee in that system. So even though you may have had a title and a salary, nobody is giving salaries anymore to titles. Right now, you are only keeping what you need. And the leaner is not the meaner. The leaner is the wiser. But you know what? The other side of this too is that you can learn, not so much from your mistakes. I don't want to call them mistakes. I want to call them your experience. Because you see, the place of your corporate assignment, your secular employment, is a place of preparation for what eventually will come to pass. And when that time comes, your preparedness is your sincerity. And in that place of preparing, your ideas, your inspiration will give you innovation. Innovative in this time. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur by default. I was never, quote unquote, anyone who wanted to be a businesswoman. I always kind of wanted my comfort class flight schedule for life and destiny. And well, I married a husband who retrained me to understand that the grace with which you attract favor into your life is not just meant for hi, hello, they like me. It's to create an economy that serves your own standard of life and living. Pastor BINTA, you have to give us that class. But most importantly, that serves your family. So that at times like this, you don't feel helpless and hopeless. Like I could have done. Yeah, we could all have done. See, everybody could have done better before COVID. So what you didn't do so good before COVID, just like I said, reset yourself and determine, how am I going to make it different? How am I going to be different to now actualize the post-COVID persona that I'm going to be? Dealing with depression is dealing with it. Like I said, delete that file. It takes a fight. You have to be deliberate about fighting. You have to work with your personal truth. You have to come to a place where you choose that you are not going to let it overwhelm you, because depression is in the mind. You can be sad about poor choices in your past, but don't stay with the sadness. Resolve and move forward. It's when you stay there that you enter into depression. So once you see the depression getting, can you find someone to open up to, have us embrace you, pray with you, and get you through baby steps to the next step and position of taking on the rest of your life? Honestly speaking, the rest of your life is a blessing. Yes, I see someone say something about having supportive husbands. You may not have a husband. Some people don't have husbands, please. There are single mothers or women who are single that are in a place where they are plagued by so many things in their mind. Oh, I didn't do this. I should have done this. At least if I was married, I'd have someone. My dear, even people who are married with someone are having challenges because of their own choice of the someone they got married to. And I want you to understand something. Let's just be real about where we are. And being real, like I said, take yourself first to the place of loving you, of healing you, of making yourself whole, and delivering yourself from the unhappy state of mind. Depression is a state of mind. It's an illness. You need to get well. And this is why I say that if you continue to push yourself, self-development, I'm going to take this course. See, pace yourself, hold it. Just be still. Be still. We're women of faith. At this time, honestly, be still. Be still. And let your altar speak to you. In fact, find your altar all over again. Go and redress the altar. Go and find that corner. Go and let's do this again. You know, that's, if not like me, you first have to sort out the fact that you are now at home, having to handle domestic issues without a domestic. Now you have to be real about that. You have to learn how to make your love rice the right way again. Get all your soups together the right way. Understand? I'm being very real. You see, I don't know. See, honestly, however I look, Joe, this is makeup of, and let me just be real. These are things I've had to find in me again. But I'm loving me as I'm loving it, even though sometimes I'm totally exhausted. But now I've built capacity. You know, it's so easy to believe you have capacity to do this. When it gets to the real, I started sweating on doing some domestic assignments. I said, oh, so I know how to sweat. I didn't know I could sweat. And now when I sweat, I laugh. It is not it's not menopausal sweat. This is sweat from doing domestic labor at home that I haven't been doing the way I've been doing. I am now doing now. This is my reality. I've embraced it. I just want to I just want to encourage
from scrubbing pots.
These nails. So the nails are right now. Let the nails rest. See my hair. Honestly speaking, the reality is simply this. Please, if you're there and you're wondering what to do post-COVID, wonder no more. Wonder as in WANDER. Stop wondering. He keeps her heart in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him. Let's begin to put, God will give you ideas. I'm getting ideas now that are just wonderful. Food business is A1. I'll tell you something about entrepreneurship. It's just that it's such a word that everybody an entrepreneur and this year. No. Every woman created was created a woman of multi-expressions, manifold. It's not about multitasking. You have many expressions in you. You just have to embrace them and find them afresh and new. And as you do that, you begin to discover some amazing things. Simple things, very, very simple things. Your recipes, right? Packaged. Maybe the one thing you know how to do is prepare an amazing pot of beans. Put it online. You'll be amazed what will happen with your pot of beans now. Food somehow has become a huge demand right now. You know, maybe there's a sauce you have or something. I don't know. If you're good at organizing, put things together. You understand? Tell your friends. People can't have domestics coming into the house, but maybe they will trust you and your domestic coming in to do something. There is one thing you can do, and if you find that one thing, you will be so encouraged. I just want to encourage you. Yes, it's a time of courage. Finding courage, you know, when you encourage, you've got to find courage in you. I've had to find courage in me. If there's one thing I've learned to beat is the depression. Honestly, don't look at yourself now. Say, look at me. I'm just not good. You are so good. You are so good at being you. Don't let anybody give you any sense of being less than who you are, because right now you don't seem to be able to match up to their own standard or something. Just pace yourself. Allow yourself to go through. I promise you, you're coming out to the expression of you that you love for the rest of your life. I just want to encourage you. Don't try to be an entrepreneur. You will evolve naturally into it. Honestly, you will. I don't know how to say more than this, but please hear my heart. Hear me, hear my heart. Honestly, you can start by showing acts of kindness, giving something to your neighbor, someone around you. Find someone. It doesn't have to just be a widow. Honestly, think of the single sisters who have nobody with them. Make them something and send to them. And look, You'll be amazed. It just makes you happy. And when it makes you happy, something new is going to happen to you. So I just want to please encourage us that once you're a woman, you are created for multiple expressions that people now call multitasking. You're not multitasking nothing. You're just being who you are. Woman, a womb conceiving, birthing, and delivering so much more than you knew you were capable of. You're going to find capacities in you that amaze you. So please just let me encourage you. And like Pastor, my sister Irene said, don't just go for what makes you happy. Really passion, passion, passion. If your passion honestly cannot be monetized to take care of you and your family, it's not what to follow. You can keep it on the radar. That's gonna be sincere with you. It's not what to follow. And then don't try to do the big things all at once. Start with your baby steps, but stay focused. Today, what Pastor Bimbo has as a Nigerian Canadian first reference educational brand started in a baby place. She just took counsel and continued to take the baby steps until she got to where she needed to be. Ladies, if you're at home and you have a family to take care of now, don't kill yourself that you're not able to do all the free courses being offered by Lagos Business School and everything. Just do your own personal business school where you are. Find Pastor Bimbo to call. Yeah, I was thinking of this. In between cooking the soup and washing the dishes, sorting out the bedroom, or just leaving it to gather dust until a time when you feel you are strong enough to do it. Whatever it's going to be, love yourself. Nobody is zooming in on your dust carpet right now. What they're zooming in on, zoom in on yourself before you zoom out to the world.
Thank you so much, Pastor Dayo. One of the major things I'm taking away is multi-expressions. I mean, that just takes something away. That just changes all that. I'm a multitasking woman. I'm juggling all the exhaustion from multitasking just lifts once you just make it. I am a woman of multi-expressions. Can you guys just say that to yourself? I'm a woman of multi-expressions. So the thing is, you can choose what to express per time, and you pace yourself. You know, it's like what they say about the Proverbs 31 woman. You know, you read that chapter the first time, and you are like, "Hey, when will I ever be this woman?" But someone helped me not to be under pressure. That woman can put you under pressure if the Holy Spirit does not help you. Someone explained to me that this woman didn't become all these things at once, so it was step by step by step until she got to the point that her children rose up to call her blessed. So it's, you know, pace yourselves, lady. Listen to DBL. Pace yourselves, ladies. Right? Are we getting blessed?
I'd like to just say that in pacing yourself, I'm talking about multiple expressions. See yourself as a garden coming into bloom. It begins as if all of you look at your gardens and where you are right now, I don't know what stage your garden is. I'm looking at mine and I'm like, oh my goodness, where do I start from? But you know, all it is about starting to reroot and regrow. You know, you've got to weed, and then, but you know, before you come into bloom, allow yourself to grow. Grow into that multi-expressional, extended person. Grow. It's not a CV, it's a growth expression. It's honestly, your CV is on paper, but your expressions for life are in you, and they will keep growing, but they need pruning. So we're in a time, like I said, be still and let the Spirit of God and God's love give us the direction for our multi-expressions. And don't.
Thank you so much, Pastor Dayo. Amen. We have another question. Someone, I think this takes us back to where we started, but I think it's important to also talk about it again. Someone is asking here. She says, we talked about keeping our friends from before marriage. What about your spouse's friend that you think is not a positive influence for your spouse, but they've been friends even before marriage? Can I throw this to you, Pastor BINTA? Let's hear Pastor BINTA.
Okay. What can you do in a situation like that? You're not going to call your spouse and say, you know what? This friend of yours is a bad influence. He's got to get out of our lives.
Trash
The
him.
first thing
Kick him out.
him or her out, you know, I don't want this person around you. Um, that you set up on the wrong foot, you know, by taking that. Wisdom is profitable to direct, the Bible tells us. You're just going to have to find some way to show your displeasure with the situation of the person. You can't. You have to understand what it is about that person, that negative influence that you think that that person has on your spouse, and be able to articulate it properly. Then, like the wise woman, you will find the right time. If you remember Abigail in the book of 2 Samuel 25, she didn't go to Nabal, her churlish husband, and tell him that night what he was about to do to them. She waited until the next morning, but she took action and did what she had to do and rose to the saving of her household. So you must find the right time and place to communicate what your reservations are. But you also must be able to articulate them properly. It's not to say, I don't like this friend of yours. There must be a reason. So find the time and the right place. Build a good case over time, you know, watertight alibi that you're able to have the conversation with and say, this and this and this is why I think. Auntie Daya has her hand up. You want to come in now? Or should I go?
No, go on, go on. I just pointed. I'd like to say something.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So it's to have the conversation like mature adults, to sit down and say, these are my observations. These are my reservations. This is why I think you'll be a better person without this person. Your spouse will tell you the history of how they've been friends for forever, all the scrapes they got into, how that body had his or her back, and. But then, you know, and I'm sure the initial reaction will be resistance more often than not to say, hell no, pardon my French, ladies. You can't tell me who my friends are. You can't choose my friends for me. But, you know, your family now, your couple, and if this is something that matters to you and it is a bother for you, over time, your spouse, I believe, with the love that you share, and the growing together in closeness and in harmony, should be able to have that conversation with the maturity that it requires. What happens if your spouse says, I am not going to ever let this friend go, deal with it, you know, take it or leave it, and then you will then have to decide whether you want to take it or leave it. There are two scenarios from whichever option you choose to take. But it's to have the conversation and, like I say, be able to articulate properly what those reservations are, how it impacts on your marriage, on the behavior of your spouse. But before you do that, you must go to the Lord on your knees, because you cannot dictate or choose or try to change your spouse, as you know, or dictate their behaviors or who their friends should be. You can only pray about it. You can't change that person. It's his maker or her maker who will change him or her. And so you go to her or his maker first and settle it with God on your knees. And I'm not trying to be spiritual here, but really, without prayer, what can you do? You know, so have the conversation with God, and then find the right time and place to have the conversation. And so maybe other steps you can take, practical steps, will be to try and ensure as much as possible that communication and meetings are limited or restricted between your spouse and that person, to try and put in place in front of that spouse a better friend or someone with a more positive influence, to push for meetings and, you know, engagements with that person and that family, where you throw up this positive, behaviors, if you like, that you'd like to see going forward with that friend. And then just continue to pray about it, but not to nag about it. You have to choose your battles in life and even in marriage. And so if one friend whose behavior you don't like is a deal breaker for your spouse, then maybe that's not the conversation you want to have. Maybe there are bigger issues that you need to deal with. So choose your battles and then decide if this one is one you want to fight, And if it is, well, you would have prayed, and God will give you a strategy as to how to go about.
I need a charger.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Binta. I have a question for you, Pastor Irene, but I know Pastor Dyer wants to say something. We have a few minutes to go.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Pastor Dyer, yes.
Pastor Irene to answer the question, and I'll come back to you. So since you want to ask Pastor Irene,
let me add something to what Pastor Binta was saying. You know, as she was talking, I remember that she was talking about wisdom, and I remember the place of wisdom. And I think we can't but ask God for wisdom on a daily basis. I was pondering on something a few minutes ago. She mentioned the case of Abigail, I think. You know, it's like how Abigail had to ask God for wisdom with the peculiarity of a foolish husband, in quotes, as the Bible calls it. I think one of our speakers today or yesterday also spoke about that. And this afternoon, I was also remembering, do you all know that story of when a king sent a team of 50 people to get the prophet? It was that Elijah. Mm-hmm. And the guy got there with his army, you know, come down now, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, if I be a man of God, let fire come down, and fire just consumed the 50 and they burned to ashes. Then the next set came as well. You know, looking at it from a perspective of being under authority, like an Abigail being a wife, like these guys being employees to their boss sent them on an errand, you know, and you can say you are being effective employees. My boss said I should call you to come. When they got to the prophet, my boss said come. And he caught fire for the next set of 50 and they were swallowed up as well. But the third guy that was now sent in his own company, when he got there, the guy was like, I beg you, I get wife, I get children for house. Make I don't come roast like these other guys. The guy had wisdom. He just went and humbled himself and said, man of God, you know, regard my life and the life of my. So his strategy was totally different based on wisdom. He was centered on our assignment. If I was the only one that was even able to accomplish the assignments, really, when you think about it, but it was by divine wisdom.
Yes.
You know, so thinking about what you just said now, when it comes to Abigail working with her husbands, because that was still a case of you being under submission and all of that, you know. So I just realized we need to pray and operate in divine and supernatural wisdom in our marriages, on the job, and all of that. So I think you should take those scriptures home and just meditate on it. I was just thinking about it this afternoon. I thought to throw that in.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Bimbo. Pastor Irene, I'll ask you this question, and then we'll go to Pastor Dio. Someone is asking, says, talking about friends. Just yesterday, I said to myself, I don't have any friends in my age group that I could easily call and share and unburden. If I have anyone, they are senior friends. Is this a bad thing? And if so, what can be done about it? Pastor Irene, can we unmute Pastor Irene, please? Yes. Can we unmute Pastor Irene, please?
Okay.
Yes,
I've just been unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the person doesn't have anybody in their age group to unburden to. And how can they fix it? Is that the question?
Asking if it's a bad thing, and if so, what can be done about it? Is it a bad thing to have only older friends?
I think, well, I'm one of those people that don't think that friendship is based on age, as long as it's not inappropriate age, of course, because I'm not expecting to be so young and people in their 40s and 50s that opposite sex are their friends, even of the same sex, because you're in different phases. But there isn't anything fundamentally wrong with being friends and finding out that your friends are cool and in fact, I know a lot of people who just kind of, whenever you see people that are older, they're in a company and they're probably bore them. You know, some people are like, so unless there's something that is, unless there's something that it is causing the person to lose in terms of development and pace and guidance, then I don't see what's wrong with it, because then how do you, like, do you deliberately and make friends by force, by fire. Because I've said it that true friendship is about being authentic. If you're not yourself, very soon people will see through it. And then it will become either you're being used or the other person is using you. So as long as it's not harmful, because I also know that there are some that are not that inappropriate. But like I said, I also know people who just don't have friends who are young. And it's just the way they're built, because they're maybe in their minds, you know, they just find that they develop much faster. But it's not, but there are other ways also of starting to say, can I expand my circle? Because it's also the flip side that even if you have all your friends and your mates, that there might be a couple who are older and are not in your age group, who've seen things that their experience would be beneficial to you. So it's good to have a balance. So if the person is really concerned about it, is to start to do, you know, find what is common interest with people who are your mates that you've maybe just been sharing alone. So if what you've been doing is doing everything by yourself, even though your friends, there are people in your age group that would be interested, maybe just look for ways to start to, I mean, like if you go to school, for instance, then of course there are plenty of opportunities. Is to start to reach out to people, speak to people more, and maybe people just think you're withdrawn and are not approaching you, and meanwhile you're waiting for them to make the first move. So I don't know if I've answered the person's question, but you know, I think that yeah, because what about when you're going to get married? You will need some best men or bridesmaids, and your older people can't be the only people you have. Yeah, so just be deliberate, but don't be fake, because people can see through you when you're being fake. So
okay, right. Thank you so much, Pastor Irene. I hope that answers the question. I hope the person, whoever asked this question, I hope you were satisfied with that answer. I think there's a whole lot of nuggets of wisdom in there. Now, Pastor Daya wanted to say something. So while she's answering that question, I'm going to also throw this to her. Before we, I just want, I saw a message, someone says they've been locked out. If you've been locked out, please go to the Facebook page. We are also on Facebook. And we are also on YouTube. You'll find us there. Thank you very much. Pastor Daya, we have a question which I'm going to add to what you wanted to say earlier. So some women have been told to submit their monthly salary to their husbands and let him decide how much she can keep or split. Or if they can split the money equally. What advice do you have for this kind of situation?
Let me begin with answering the question about the submission of your monthly salary. There's a wise way for every woman to do things in submission and respect to whatever the contrived demand for submission may be. Okay, going into marriage, have you had these conversations around sex, around blood group, around you know, secrets, personal secrets, issues that have happened that are in your past, you know, that you know, toxic issues that need to be handled? You must encourage people to come out and speak this truth early on enough, not too early, not too prematurely, but when you see it maturing to a point and everything, there's this kind of serious conversation must happen pre-marriage. Now we're in marriage. This is the scenario. And the guy comes at you with this bullish demand that this is what should happen. Now, for you to ask this question, it means you don't trust this person's management of the salary. Because if you did, it's not a problem. You can submit your salary.
Exactly.
So there is a challenge. And if there is a challenge, then I need to challenge how you go about this, because a lot of women come and say, he did this, he's an irresponsible man, he's a drink. It was all that, please, before you got pregnant and the issue of salary and everything came along. He was always all that. And if you say you never saw it, please, like I say, I always take people to the personal truth. The place of everyone without fail of my friends who has had a marriage challenge that has brought them into a place of singleness, divorce, have told me one thing, Sis D, it was there. I just, not that I didn't pay attention to it, I just kind of let it slide. You know, a lot of women think that I'm self-sufficient, I can take care of myself. When you get into marriage, find out that that self-sufficient, take care of yourself, takes on a different, I don't know that this word is right, I think it's a Nigerian indigenous term, coloration. But it just takes on a different coloration. You understand what I'm saying? And so now there's an issue. And if there's an issue, and you know you want to keep your marriage, does that make you a mugu? No, it doesn't make you a mugu. Submission is not about muguness. Let me rephrase that for people who don't know what it means. That means someone who is an obvious fool in the face of their experience. You understand? You are not foolish as unto God. You are obviously a fool as a person-to-person interaction and engagement. And when you look at that, you can see you're being taken for granted. You're being messed up, and you know that's what they call it, imumu or imugu. You understand in our language. Now I want to say something. Submission is not an inferior position. Never. Submission is a superior decision. Who takes it? You take it. Nobody takes it for you. So you're saying somebody says you should submit your salary and there's a challenge. What I tell women is this, especially in this day of going cashless, if you know there's a responsibility that may be challenged because of the way the person manages, I'm not saying mismanages, but manages the salary when it gets to them, make sure that that transaction goes cashless, sorts out the children's fees. Something goes there, something goes there, but every day, every month, something reports from the salary. Oh, it's the way it has been, how do you put it? It's been, Pastor BINTA, what's the word now? You know, it's the way it's been arranged. So that once the money goes into account, it goes to the various locations, it still lands as submitted in the hand of the requester of your monthly salary. However, let's go to the place of communication. How are you going to handle this? Because I mean, you're going to be miserable. Obviously, there's a challenge, and somebody needs to be sorted out in all of this. Being confrontational never wins the battle. The only person you need to confront is you. And like I always say, confront yourself with your personal truth, but please don't break down there, break through. Okay, standing debit order to those accounts. Thank you. All right, just make sure, and you don't need to make, and then don't go about making noise about it. Some men simply weren't educated about what it means to be in charge. So they think that submission is bullying you to behave in certain ways, like you submit your salary to me, that I am the man of this house. Don't ever argue and say the man, and don't use your body language, because your body language will end up with a body recovery program by the time you are done with it. So I would advise you to work around it with me. They say a white woman builds a house. Now, Pastor BINTA, you were talking about what was that? It's now kind of run into so many things. When we're talking about what to do when your husband has a friend you don't like.
Yeah.
So I want to use this in a generic reference. Whether it's a friend you don't like, it's your husband's sister's brother's cousin, an in-law, it's your mother-in-law, it's his colleague at work. I want you to understand something. You are coming after so many years of his being in relationship with these people. And you now come to say this person is not good for you. First and foremost, you're opening up your mouth to conceive she lost every pregnancy living with that man who she never abused and called a fool. It was his name. Because she didn't go and say that not a fool because she was abusing him. She explained to David, His name is Neighbor. I'm not abusing him. Actually, it's his DNA. It's like this is his condition from birth. Even his family. She didn't go and abuse. David looked at the wisdom of this woman. She handled that. All the while, please, if you follow Abigail's genealogy, she was a woman from a home of pedigree. A rich man went and married this Carmelite, this beautiful woman, because he had the money to marry her. And then she was in that house, Abigail. David, the lamps and everything that she went to her own flock. So while she was there, things too. Taking care of the friend, you may just end up with a surprise that he's not so bad after all. Because I tell you what, some of them at first take, you don't like them, but they've always been your husband's friend. Even when it comes to that day that you want to have a quiet discussion with him, I would first of all say be quiet. Honestly, be very sure you have to bring it up. Because there are some things you will say about your husband's friend, your husband's brother, your husband's sister, that honestly, he will never forget that you said. He can let it go, but and one day, look, there's always a day when a man, because of who we are as women, one aggravation or the other, will say, why you can't even tolerate anyone? You said this about my friend, about my sister, even about my mother. No, we don't need that. So I just advise you, please, use wisdom to bring yourself into a place of restraint and gather what you have to say by the appointment of wisdom at a day coming. I've realized that when you let patience have her perfect work, she sorts things out. There's a day, like, look, you should even be the one that's your friend. So how are you going to? You will suggest things that show you are helping. You are helping the friendship. Do you understand me, white woman? There's a way you help the friendship. Eventually, your husband will come to that. BINTA, please, I really need. When it comes to that, don't you say, hey, I've always wanted to tell. No. Are you sure this is the right course of action? I promise you, once you create a safe place for your husband to come and talk to you about, quote unquote, the bad. Look, everybody knows when you have a bad influence around. And then I want to ask, how good is your influence around your husband? Because ultimately, if you are nurturing the right kind of relationship and not nagging about other relationships, he will spend the time that he would have gone to spend there because of your nagging, or he's reacting to your fact, the fact that when you told him, you could not tell him in the kind of love that helps you embrace, oh, my wife, thank you for telling me my friend is bad. So I would say, please, in being wise about speaking to anyone, even if it's your child, about a friend you don't like, if you make it a fight, this is how many women end up as sad mothers-in-law, or you end up stressing yourself on a relationship you have no business with stressing yourself on, that you see your friend, your son or child in. Go and take this thing to prayer. Go and find a wise, there is a wise way. It's a cunning way, but it's not crafty. It's cunning according to the wisdom of God for you to be able to handle certain things. And don't be afraid to handle them. I always say one thing: if you cannot correct in love, don't correct yet. If I cannot say this thing with the sensitivity required that helps them know I'm embracing them, I'm not confronting them. By the time I speak with my sons or what they call it about something that I don't like or someone I don't like, at the end of the day, it's like, even when they want to come at me, mommy, this, and then I say, did I really? Then they think and they say, why? I was wise to arrange myself. And when I see I've come at them with the Niger parent syndrome, I'm very wise about doing the rearrangement so that, it can be all embracing. And eventually we have a conversation. But please be wise about how you handle complaining or suggesting or pointing out to your husband certain attributes that he already knows because he has lived with them all his life about that friend or the other. Eventually, you become the friend that he stays with, that he listens to, and that he respects. And like I said, when finally he comes around to what you've told him, don't say, or I told you so. Quietly, you can go behind the corner and do that and repent. Yes, repent, because even God doesn't want you to laugh at the fact that you just got it right with your husband, but with our husbands, but we do that. So, yeah, I've just learned that it's wisdom. My husband is an alpha male. Did you hear me? Alpha male. And the truth of the matter is, the way I have watched him, one, train me, raise me, grow me. There are times he will come at me. I had to learn, I don't react by, with anger, but I used to have a tendency to go into silence. The other side of the, I think, is even more dangerous than expressing. So not malice, but I'll just be quiet. And then my face, you see my face, you can read my face like the book of Leviticus. You will see certain things there, But eventually I started learning that these things have to go. I've just learned that marriage is a discovery and recovery program. You keep going, all right? So, and it's the same thing with all relationships. It's the same thing with all relationships. You just got to keep going and keep, just keep at it. And finally, I wanted to say, or the sister was asking about having friends with older women. I don't know when age defines friendship. I love what Sister Irene said about the fact that, being authentic. She also said something earlier. You have friends you have fun with. I said, if you look at friendship as an acronym, is this person someone you have fun with? Yes. You can be real with R. Who inspires you? I. Who energizes you? E. Who never says never concerning you. I mean, not that they give it to you, but they're always open to embrace you, to hear you, to respond to your need. And finally, D is that they deal with truth all the time with you. If you find that in someone who is 20 years older than you, you found a friend. Enjoy your friendship. And I have friends who are younger than me. I love them. I always say it's your generation that have really lifted me and helped me. I'm not putting my peers down. But what I mean is a lot of my great friends who have spoken great truth to me, who have brought me to a place of breaking free from things that held me down and bound in personal as well, were much younger than me. Somehow they were able to free me because they were free with me. Friendship is about liberty, to be free and to love in truth. So I just want to say that if that's your friend, fine. And if at this point you find that, oh, I don't have friends who are peers, then also audit that. Find out, why don't I have that? Do I have a trust issue about my peers? Did I have a traumatic experience somewhere in my life? What is it? Find out what it is, admit it, and then now go searching for one. Yes, if you want a friend, you be a friend. You go and look for a peer that you would love to be friends with, and paste yourself into the friendship, and you'll be amazed that, oh, you mean I could find the right kind of cuddle buddy, not a lesbian or anything like that. Because I know these days all kinds of things. Please, I just want to say, you just find someone who, myself and my golden sis Irene, we have a long-standing friendship that two of us maybe post-COVID will be able to really root and blossom. I love that woman. But you just love it. I just really, all I can, and I say that not just like a term of patronizing, I'm being very sincere. So I find myself in a place and in a time where, in doing the research, I'm able to look around me and say, how's my garden growing? What do I need to refresh there? What do I need to do there? So what I'm simply saying is, let's not internalize. Let's find courage within to begin to refresh, reset, and reconnect, everything, rearrange. You understand? I mean, like I said, now that I'm at home, I went into my store, I emptied out my store. Myself and my daughter rearranged her room. I've just been doing all kinds of things. I said, it doesn't have to be. so much. So I'm learning myself to say, it doesn't have to be so much. Okay, Dayo, you know, we don't want to redirect energy. You want to reinvest the energy in you, in me. That's really what I want to do. And you know what? If you take a good look at me, you can see it all over me.
Thank you so much, Pastor D, for always being amazing. ROLI has been knocked out technically, so I'll just help her round up. We'll just have a few minutes to go. I think we'll just take the last question if no other person has any question for now. Somebody's asking about how do we raise godly children without shouting and losing your mind, especially if they are young children. Pastor Irene, do you want to help us with that, please? How do you raise godly children without losing your mind and without having to shout, especially if they are very young? My sons, actually, you know, and I think you need to help me out with this, especially Pastor BINTA and Pastor Irene. You need to call my children and my boys especially. They feel that it's a Yoruba thing, you know, everything I do, they feel it's a Yoruba thing. And I'm like, no, it's not a Yoruba thing, it's a parenting thing. So, one of my sons, his friend was saying to him yesterday that, oh, you're lucky, you're only half Yoruba. You know, that he is in trouble, that he's double Yoruba, both parents are Yoruba, you know. So they make us feel that we are horrible. If Auntie Dayo talks now, they'll say that she's half Yoruba. She has quarter Yoruba blood, even though it's just a quarter she has. So Auntie Irene, Pastor Irene, how do we raise children without raising our voices and yet being effective, especially for small children?
Okay, I think it's probably also an Igbo thing if it's about being an editing thing, you know. So I've come to my house, probably say it's an Igbo thing.
I told them they need to claim that it's us Yoruba people that shout. I said it's because people haven't been to Umahia and Maba market to go and see how people shout.
Okay, so how to raise them without shouting when they're young. I did a lot of shouting when my children were young, so I could start to tell you what the Bible says. I'll leave that to Pastor BINTA. I'm just going to say that raising the voice indicates that you're not being heard. I think that's why. I don't think I used to shout when I used to shout just because I like to hear my own voice. I think it's about starting from the beginning. I don't think, the education is like Pastor Bimbo will tell us that there's a certain age, but if you haven't instilled something in a child, maybe it's a bit too late. But I think that with the things of the Spirit, it's not too late. So I think first of all is to take a step back and start to try and reorientate. Like, how do you get your child's attention? If their default position now is that they don't hear you unless you shout, and it's a chicken and egg thing, so maybe it's because you always shout that they don't hear you. But you take a step back and then just for your personal, everybody's child is different and every parent is different. There's a textbook, but you've got to find your rhythm. And sometimes you can shout without shouting. It's the art of speaking without speaking. So if the promise of what will come if you have to shout is understood, maybe you never need to raise your voice. But I know that children will always push the boundaries and see how much they can get away with. And if all you do is shout, they're going to start to enjoy it. Like, they will even tell each other that give her 3, 2, 1, there she goes. They know you're going to shout, so they don't these jokes behind your back about setting you off. But I think that if you always deliver on your promises, perhaps the shouting will reduce. My promise when my children were smaller was that I had this very nice cane. So I'll tell you that I don't have the energy to shout. And so if I have to, then we're going to end up with a cane. And if I shout, I will cane you. And then after a while, you will see that the child who doesn't want all of that is going to stop testing you a bit. Because children can tell if you're not authentic. If they know that you shout and nothing will happen. Actually, they'll say that. They say, "Mommy shouts and nothing will happen." And shouting never killed anybody. So I don't know if it's excessive, because I don't know how you're going to parent without ever once raising your voice. But if that is all you're constantly doing, Pastor D has always been talking about the resetting. Maybe this COVID-19 time is the time to reset, because I can't imagine your house and all the shouting from morning all the way up. I have young adults now, and I'm not sure that I still haven't shouted this year or even last year. So it's not something you're looking for 100% is gone. But I think it's in making the way you communicate. You have to now make a conscious effort to develop a new culture with your children. So you can start by actually sitting, because children, their brains are sharper than ours. An old car and a new car engine works better. Before you've gotten somewhere, they've already reached there. So if you're thinking that sitting down with them and talking will not make any headway, it will. So sit and have a conversation. Set some boundaries, agree some things. That everything doesn't have to be about punishment. It can also be about positive rewards. So say, if we can get past this, if you will do your homework on time, this is a treat. If you will do this and that, we'll have more time that we can use for, nice things. And maybe you will find that they start to cooperate better, because there's the promise of something good, whether it is time with you, time together, or it's actually, something they like to do. And then maybe you start to negotiate better, and then you will not need to get to the point where you're shouting. But by all means, the Bible says that if you spare the rod, you will spoil the child. So if you require to be heard, and it means you need to raise your voice, then you do that. But it cannot be a habit, because then it loses its potency. So that on the day you raise your voice, you know that you must be serious, because you're not always doing it. So that you don't say it's an Igbo or a Yoruba thing. And I'm sure now Pastor BINTA will enter Bible.
So before Pastor BINTA comes on, Pastor, do you want to give us any closing remarks, anything you want to say to the women before Pastor BINTA comes up and then she gives her closing remarks?
Oh, so really pleased that I had this opportunity, because it wasn't about, I came here and I was like, I'm sure I'm going to hear some things that I can take away, and that has been what this has been for me. So just to say a very big thank you, but just to say, as women, we need to remember. I think if we don't remember anything I have said today or had the chance to say, is to say, just keep in touch, just keep in mind, you've got to be authentic, that you've got to be yourself. Be yourself at work and at home and at play, so that every time they ask who you are, it's easy, because there's something that you're going to answer, a void you're going to feel. And if people cannot match you on the day that it's time to say who is like this, then you lose the opportunity. So just be known for something, but make sure what you're known for is good and it's positive. And with God's help, every one of us can find that one thing that is the light that that we can set. But our God will be happy to set upon a hill, and everybody can find and say, okay, if you need this and that, if you need someone who is consistent, who's trustworthy, look for Sister so and so. Because ultimately, after everything is done, that's the kind of thing that we need to be able to move forward, form the lasting relationships we need to support not just us, but the ministry and our children and the growth of our families and our nation. Because if we get it right at home, then the nation is safe, because the nation is made of families. Very many thanks again. God bless.
Thank you, Pastor Irene. Okay, Pastor BINTA.
I'd also like to add my thanks, Pastor Bimbo, for this opportunity to have these conversations this evening. It's been quite refreshing and educative for me as well. Pastor Irene said, I go enter Bible, but I think she said all that needed to be said. The one thing I probably will add on the conversation about children is the fact that, so it's not just a Yoruba or an Igbo thing. It looks like it's a parenting thing. I don't know of any parent who doesn't shout at some point or the other. But
African parents.
If I mean that shouting is half of the course, at some point you will do that. But I would advise my sister not to lose her mind, because there's something about losing her mind. Just control that. And I like everything Pastor Irene has said. The one bit I'll add there is just about dealing with children individually. So it's not a one size fits all. You've just got to understand your children. You've got to know what works for each child. Where shouting works for one, it might not work for the other. And, like Mary said, I like the bit about sitting them down and having the conversations. And these children understand when you have the conversations, put the pros and the cons before them, and why it's important to do the right thing at any point in time. And all we can do is continue to trust God, to bring them up in the way of the Lord. And when they grow, they will not depart from it. The last thing I'd like to say to my sister is to say, continue to face forward, okay? One of the questions earlier on was about how would we cope post-COVID, the depression bit, and Auntie D did justice to that. It's also to say, with God on your side, you can't go wrong. You also, as a person, however, has to be intentional and prepared. I like what the Bible says about writing the vision and making it plain so that they can run needed. You need to know what your plan is for your life. And you've heard the often banded truism: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And but it's true. You've got to have a plan. What's my 1 year plan? What's my 6-month plan? In view of the pandemic and the new normal that it has thrown up, what's my 1 year, my short term, my medium term, and my long term plan? And put it to paper. Confucius, the philosopher, says, better the lightest ink than the strongest memory. A lot of us will think, I can remember it, but no, write it down. Get a pen and get a notebook and write down your dreams, your vision, your goals, and list them before.
Yes, okay.
Hi, ROLI. All right. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. And to my sister panelists, Pastor BINTA, Pastor Irene, God bless you and thank you very much for the beautiful impact and the engagement that we've had to do. So, I mean, relationship can be this real and this simplified with Zoom. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. They said, a friend's face shall lighten up. Just seeing our faces, it just lightened me. It made me happy. Thank you very much, Pastor Bimbo, and God bless you. My closing remarks. One, in the place of create moments that leave people in no doubt you are their friend. You may not be able to spend a lot of time with them, but the time that you do spend with them or engage them, leave them with no doubt that you are their friend and that you are there for them through thick and thin, through sick and sin. No condemnation. Amen and praise the Lord. Also, I'd like to say that as a woman, you are created for multiple expression. So your skill set and proficiency.
I think we lost her.
Pastor Dai, we can't hear you.
Her mic is not muted.
The sound is off.
Is it raining?
That woman
not
is
here. Okay, we can hear her.
Okay, she's back.
We
We
can
lost
hear
her
Okay, you're back.
for 2 seconds.
We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Okay, we can hear you
We
now.
lost you for a few seconds.
Yes.
All right. So did you hear when I said that a woman's skill set and proficiency, we
Yes,
thank
we
God
did.
for your professional pedigree and all of that,
Yes,
your
yes.
capacities and all of that.
Yes.
But let your skill set be in being the woman you were created and born to be. And if you want to find her, she's right inside of you. She's in your heart. Just get past, get through the depression and all those challenges, whatever they are, even as they come, we are created to overcome. He never said we will not have the challenges that will make us champions. But he did tell us that whenever we're in that place where we need him, he will always be with us. And he says concerning us as his daughters, because of our hurt, he himself is hurt. And by the power of the balm of Gilead, I've looked at it. What is that balm? It's the hope that maketh us not ashamed. You will not be put to shame. Whatever it is, go through it open and knowing that you're coming out of it healed, cured, and delivered, and prospered in the mighty name of Jesus.
Amen.
I'd also like to say to, the question about what to do with young children and you find yourself shouting. Why do people shout? We shout when, first, it's a sign of some kind of, you are calling attention. You are sounding alarm. You are making noise to draw attention to something. It's either a response or it's a reaction. Now, you can shout because you're happy and it's celebration sound. So you're responding to it. You can shout because something very traumatic happened and your reaction is a scream, it's a shout that comes out of you. It's that thing. It's the first sign of trauma, attack of the grief that comes to you when you hear. Some people don't shout it out. It just overcomes them. Why do you shout? You're calling attention. You're making not just a sound. You are releasing a strident noise. When you shout, it's a distress indication. It's a signal that something is not well. Now, my mother will always say, when you have a child who is going near fire, you shout, don't go there, stop it. And you do something that associates pain with that action. So the child learns that is a don't go there. But if your shouting is liberal, you create a distress situation. You are transferring distress. You are creating a toxic environment. I'm Yoruba. I'm married to Yoruba husband.
That's not true. You're half Yoruba and half Caribbean.
Am I shouting? Do I shout? No, seriously, do I shout? Do I shout?
Budge, tell us the truth. Budge, tell us the truth. There's nothing she can do about it.
There's a mommy saying, what does she do about children who shout? And Auntie Bimbo was saying that, like you find them, you say it's a Yoruba thing, shouting mothers are more Yoruba than any other tribe. So I said, I don't know that. And in fact, when I shout, they get worried that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, because I don't. So what do I do?
Just talk to them.
Tell them. What do I do?
One does have a very serious topic that's make you evaluate your life.
No, but seriously, I'm going to go there. It's about conversation. You see that thing? There's a place of conversation. Being real in all relationships, as a mom, as a friend, as a wife. The first thing is to be real, to be relational, and that demands communication. Communication doesn't happen when you shout; it happens when you converse. Now, I don't want you to go away feeling guilty. I have shouted. Who hasn't shouted as a mother? I don't know. I can't say there's nobody, because maybe there's someone who hasn't. Maybe they were trained in not shouting, some kind of training before they came into motherhood. But honestly speaking, I shouted and discovered I was just creating a toxic environment. So I left shouting and I started to cultivate conversation. I ask you a question. If you're a mother and you have a father in the house, you don't have a father, but somebody in relating with you and exchange with you is always shouting, how does it make you feel? It makes, the first thing shouting does is it makes you insecure. It makes you reactionary. It builds fear in you. It does not build strength. So you have to determine, we are spirit-directed women. Even if you are not filled, you say, I'm not filled, and I'm full of the flesh. It's okay. It's a good admission. But whatever your good admission is, please submit to the leadership of the Holy Spirit. We must be trained by the Spirit. A shouting mother is a shouting wife, is a shouting friend, is someone people keep walking in advanced forgiveness towards. I had to intervene on in one lady's case, myself and my friend Antimo. The woman was spread eagled in her shorts early in the morning and her t-shirts on top of someone's bonnet because she'd gotten into an argument with someone who had hit her car, and the guy was wrong, yes. But it was when we found the child in the car, I saw the child was shaking. He was shaking, he was traumatized. Apparently, I've been crying, Mommy, don't do it. Mommy, don't shout. She broke, she everything he told her better not to do, she did. And she ended up spread eagle, but for the mercy of God, this car was moving with her. We had to jump out of our own car, jump into the middle of the road, stop the traffic, get this, she was, and going, please. Shouting may have an immediate reaction or response, but it will not give you the result you want. Don't train yourself. It's not your children. Keep yourself free from shouting by unlearning the shout mode. It's an unlearning you must do. When it comes to shouting, I have to hold myself. This is my son that has come to say this. You know, my other son in Canada, well, let's start with him. He is my parenting 001. I'm still in school. I'm still in school of parenting. I'm 23 years, 23 years in this school of parenting, and plus another 18 years with the next one. Sorry, another 20 going on 21 years, and another one with my 15-year-old daughter. I promise you, this thing is